Ever wonder what really makes Elon Musk tick?
Today, we are going to make you look at him in a whole new light, especially his political side.
Hmm.
We're doing a deep dive into this report on Seth Abramson's Substack, and it centers around this, get this, shockingly raw interview with Elon's own father, Errol Musk.
Well, what I find so captivating about this interview is the glimpse it offers into a side of Elon that's been, very deliberately kept out of the public eye. It's a direct contradiction to the image he's cultivated over the years.
Okay, so we all know Elon's dad is, well, a bit of a character.
Right.
But in this Substack report, Errol doesn't hold back, sharing some, seriously eyebrow-raising statements about South Africa. They really lay bare a belief system rooted in white supremacy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just stop there. He explicitly connects these beliefs to his sons.
It's crucial to grasp the weight of this context, right? He's not just like spouting off opinions. He's revealing a deeply ingrained worldview.
Right.
When he states that Donald Trump's policies are, and I quote, the right policies for people like us, which is deeply unsettling when you consider Elon has gone to great lengths to distance himself from his father and those very views.
Right.
So if Errol's telling the truth, it calls into question Elon's entire narrative.
This report goes even further, suggesting that Elon's political journey from his supposed switch from Democrat to Republican to his cozying up to the Trump administration has always revolved around one thing, and that is power. It argues that his views on race, leadership, and the role of government might be far more aligned with his father's than he's ever publicly admitted.
So we're talking about more than just a typical father-son political disagreement here, right?
Mhm.
This runs much deeper.
Oh, absolutely.
It suggests an ideology that Elon might very well share, but has kept carefully hidden, especially during his rise in Silicon Valley.
Precisely. And that's where this report gets really interesting. It delves into Elon's history of political donations and his interactions with former President Obama to paint a very different picture of the tech visionary we think we know.
Now that you mention it, wasn't there something about a massive donation Elon made to Obama's campaign back in 2012?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't that raise some eyebrows at the time?
Absolutely. And this report argues that the donation, while seemingly supportive of a Democratic candidate, was more strategic than anything else.
Okay.
It suggests Elon was primarily concerned with SpaceX's future, securing government contracts. He was aligning himself with whoever held the power to benefit his business interests.
Okay, so it's less about genuine political allegiance and more about playing the long game for his companies.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Didn't Elon also try to influence Obama's stance on AI regulation?
You're exactly right. The report highlights this as another example of Elon's strategic maneuvering. He urged Obama to regulate AI, but crucially in a way that would directly benefit Tesla. It
Oh.
reveals a pattern of prioritizing his own interests.
So if his true objective is power, as this report suggests, what could that mean if he ever actually attains significant political influence? That's what I find both intriguing and a bit terrifying, to be honest.
It's a valid concern. And that's where Errol's insights into what a, quote, Muskian America would look like become really unsettling.
Wait, he actually spelled that out. What would that even look like?
According to Errol, Elon believes the government is bloated and inefficient. He reportedly advocates for a drastic reduction in its size, potentially by as much as 75%.
Hold on, 75%. That's not just trimming the fat. That's practically dismantling the entire system as we know it. What impact would that even have?
The implications are staggering. We're talking about potential collapses in essential services like healthcare and education, economic instability, widespread social unrest. And that's not even considering the potential consequences of his other views.
Like his father's views on race and leadership.
Exactly.
Because that's a terrifying thought. It's like we're staring down the barrel of a dystopian future straight out of science fiction.
It's certainly a chilling possibility. This report forces us to confront a different side of Elon Musk, one that challenges the narrative of the innovative genius, and it forces us to grapple with the potential dangers of unchecked ambition and a worldview that prioritizes profit and power above all else.
Yeah. We often put these tech giants on a pedestal, but this report is a stark reminder that they're not infallible. They have their own biases, their own agendas, and when those agendas potentially involve reshaping society and their image, well, that's something we need to pay very close attention to.
Absolutely. And that's why this interview with Errol Musk is so revealing. It provides a glimpse behind the curtain, exposing a side of Elon that he's carefully kept hidden from public view.
It makes you question everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What other aspects of his carefully constructed persona might be more for show than genuine belief? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We'll delve even deeper into this report after a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so we're back, and we're really starting to see a different side of Elon Musk here, one that's a far cry from the meme-loving, Mars-obsessed innovator we often see in the headlines.
Right, and this report does a great job of illustrating this by bringing up a really interesting anecdote about Elon, his brother Kimball, and this lunch they had with some Hollywood A-listers in Cape Town.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about this in the report.
Yeah.
This is where Errol doubles down on his praise for Trump's policies right in front of everyone.
Exactly. And according to Errol, his sons were mortified, supposedly chewing him out later for, quote, embarrassing them in front of their, quote, liberal friends.
Oh my gosh, it's almost comical to imagine.
I know, right?
But you have to wonder, is it really just embarrassment, or is there something more calculated going on?
That's the key question this report raises. You see, Errol describes Elon and Kimball's reaction as fear. Fear of being associated with views that could damage their reputation in Hollywood and Silicon Valley.
Okay, so suggesting that their discomfort wasn't necessarily about the policies themselves, but rather the potential fallout for their brands, their bottom line.
Precisely. And this feeds into a larger pattern the report highlights, which is Elon's strategic use of political maneuvering to protect his interests, even if it means obscuring his true beliefs.
So it's not just about potentially aligning with his father's ideology.
Right.
It's about the lengths he might go to conceal it for personal gain.
Exactly.
And that adds a whole other layer of complexity, especially considering the immense power he now holds.
Absolutely. And this report draws a direct parallel between Elon's approach to Twitter and how he might approach governing.
Okay.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Right, let's talk about Twitter. This report really hones in on Elon's decision to essentially hand over the reins to his cousin James Musk after the takeover.
Right. And while Errol frames this as prioritizing family loyalty, the report suggests it could be a red flag, hinting at a potential pattern of prioritizing personal connections over experience and qualifications.
Which, let's be honest, isn't exactly reassuring when you think about someone potentially leading a country.
No.
And it's not just about who he surrounds himself with. It's about how he views the very people who make up the government he wants to shrink.
Right. And this is where Errol's insights into Elon's thinking become particularly concerning. He claims Elon sees most government workers as lazy, inefficient, more concerned with their own comfort than serving the public good.
Which feeds into that classic small government ideology, the idea that less government is always better. But what does that actually mean in practice?
Well, it means drastically reducing the size and scope of government programs and regulations, which often translates into cuts to essential services, healthcare, education, social safety nets.
And we're not just talking about minor tweaks here, are we? Errol claims Elon would aim for a 75% reduction in the size of the government, if given the chance.
Exactly. Imagine the impact of such a drastic reduction on crucial areas like environmental protection, infrastructure, public safety. It could be devastating.
It's like he's proposing to gut the very systems that hold society together. And he wants to do it based on this belief that government employees are inherently lazy and incompetent.
That seems to be the underlying assumption, yes.
Wow.
And it's a dangerous one because it ignores the vital role that government plays in regulating industries, protecting consumers, ensuring a basic standard of living for its citizens.
It's like he's so focused on disrupting the status quo that he's blind to the potential consequences of dismantling essential systems without viable alternatives in place.
It's a classic case of be careful what you wish for, wouldn't you say? And this report does a fantastic job of highlighting those potential consequences, encouraging us to think critically about what a Muskian America might actually look like for everyday people.
And it's not exactly a pretty picture, especially when you factor in some of those other concerning views Errol has been so eager to share. We'll get into that right after, well, actually, we'll just get into it right now. So we're talking about potentially shrinking the government, prioritizing personal connections, and all this stemming from a worldview that's, well, raising some serious red flags. But it's not just about the size and structure of the government, is it? It's about, who gets to be a part of it.
You've hit the nail on the head. Remember that offhand comment Errol made about how, quote, most guys wouldn't want to work in government?
Yeah, it sounded like he was implying that government work is somehow beneath them.
Exactly. It's subtle, but it reinforces a very specific and exclusionary view of leadership, one that aligns with his, defense of apartheid,
Right.
and suggests that leadership is inherently a white male domain.
So it's not just that he sees government is inefficient. It's that he seems to believe A certain type of person is best suited for it, a type that excludes a whole lot of people. And that's incredibly dangerous, especially if that belief translates into actual policy.
And unfortunately, this report suggests that Elon himself might harbor some of these same biases. Remember his dismissive remarks about Vice President Harris, or his amplification of that bankless rumor about Obama on Twitter.
Oh, absolutely. Those incidents definitely raised eyebrows at the time.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how those biases might manifest if he were in a position to actually shape government policy.
It's a chilling thought, because we're not just talking about abstract beliefs here.
Right.
We're talking about real-world consequences for real people.
Right. Policies that could have a disproportionate impact on women, minorities, and anyone else who doesn't fit into this, well, narrow and frankly outdated view of what a leader should look like.
This report doesn't shy away from those uncomfortable truths. It's a call to action. It's urging us to look beyond the, carefully crafted personas and confront the potential dangers of unchecked power, even when it's wielded by someone as seemingly untouchable as Elon Musk.
Because at the end of the day, this isn't about idolizing or demonizing Elon Musk. It's about understanding the potential consequences of his worldview, both for our country and for the world. And it's about asking ourselves what kind of future we're creating when we turn a blind eye to these kinds of red flags, regardless of who's waving them.
It all comes down to recognizing that the future isn't predetermined. It's shaped by the choices we make today, the questions we ask, and the narratives we choose to challenge. And those choices matter now more than ever.
That's what I find so compelling about this deep dive. It's not just presenting information. It's pushing us to engage with it, to think critically, to do our own research, and to form our own conclusions.
Precisely. Because blindly accepting the narratives we're fed, especially when it comes to powerful figures like Elon Musk, is a dangerous game.
Well, as you go about your day, think about what we've uncovered in this deep dive, what resonated with you, what surprised you, and most importantly, what are you going to do with this information? Because the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we build together.